back to your main page here. That then kicks on. You will not need to do this. Skip this part. So service is on. We go over here, reload the live tab. Now we see our live video here. Get shareable link. Go in here, paste. Wait for the conversion to watch. Once that shows up, go back to this page. Hit embed. Hit update. And that is trying to autofill in. Over here we see that going. So, I'm going to turn the desktop sound. Our test going. So, I'm going to turn the desktop sound. Our test going. So, we're all good there. All right, now at that point, we are now streaming, and everything's now live. Now, I'm going to turn on some lights up here and kind of walk you through the suggested shots we have here.
Okay.
Things that Allison and I have to work well. All right. So, typically speaking, and you'll get the thing we just did with the URL, you're going to want to do fairly quickly to avoid the shot being too wide for too long. Because right now you're seeing, full spread of everybody. What you're going to want to do is focus in on the song lyrics so that anybody who might be watching the stream is able to see the lyrics and potentially sing, worship themselves at home. Yeah. Yep. And that'd be our verdict. Mm-hmm. What you're going to want to do is tighten in on the screen there, ideally so that the four corners of the screen are the four corners of the shot. And you see here it's kind of focusing out, and so you may have to kind of tweak that slightly. You can't adjust the focus, so because there's nothing on there at the moment, it's not autofocusing, but you see if we move over here, it does focus on the cross there. So.
Okay, so I assume it doesn't usually do that when there's lyrics up there.
Correct. It will auto focus on those lyrics. So, and then typically, what we suggest is whenever people are standing, you would focus on the right one here. So,
okay.
For the first part, where everybody's usually standing, you go there. And the reason for that is Mike Bloss or some other similarly tall individual will block your shot if you have it over here.
Okay.
If you find that some similarly tall individual is over here, then you might have to occasionally make a judgment call as to which of the two screens gives you the best view of the lyrics.
Okay.
It will almost always be the one on the right, but if you find yourself with a slew of tall people here and not many over here on one Sunday, it could be on the left. So, and then it's kind of your call as to which one you feel is better. The thing I would say or urge you to maybe keep in mind is this in the red border is what everybody is seeing at home.
Okay.
So typically I like to use that as my guideline on shot, at least.
Is there a little difference between it and this one?
There isn't, but since the red border kind of is what is directly streamed and this is not necessarily what you're seeing in the viewfinder, then maybe at least glancing down to make sure that what you think you're seeing here is in fact what is coming up there. Make sense? Mm-hmm. And then whenever people are sitting, so a few songs in, we would suggest going over here to the left
and then doing something like so, with the worship team in view.
So they can get the lyrics and the people.
And the people, yes. Now, just the top halves of the people, and sometimes you'll have people spread out so much that you can't get the lyrics in all of them in one shot. If that's the case, sorry, person who's sitting off by themselves on the left, you might be cut out.
Okay.
But
so if you, in doubt, grab the leader and whoever else you can get at the same time.
I would say, when in doubt, try and center the shot on the monitor.
Okay.
And then adjust as needed from there. You obviously don't want to have half a person in a live shot. So, if you need to maybe, if you have that, maybe you'll need to move that over here a little bit. Or maybe you'll need to move it over to the left. But default would be centering with the monitor in the center here and however many people you can get. Sometimes you might need to zoom in or zoom out a little bit. Since this is a super sensitive zoom, and since if you do it super fast, then there'll be whiplash for anybody viewing the stream. Just kind of be aware of that when you're zooming.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the muscle memory of a creep zoom instead of a crash.
Yeah. Crash zoom bad. So that would be the shot we'd recommend then for people sitting down. And then, of course, whenever you have speakers there, devotions, prayers, whatever, you'd want to center on the pulpit. And this is going to be a little odd because sometimes the mic is off center or people will stand off center from the center of the pulpit. But since you can't account for that and you want a consistent shot, you'd want to try center on the pulpit itself. And you see how the cross is kind of off center from the pulpit there?
Yeah.
So it's a little weird, but overall, I suspect you'll find the best view is to center on the pulpit. So that'd be our suggestion.
Okay.
Zoom in kind of as tight as you think is appropriate. If you zoom in too tight, then it's going to look a little funky. So kind of a matter of judgment. We would say maybe, there-ish.
Okay, so that's not quite rule of thirds. You're leaving about a quarter on each side and taking about half the screen with.
Yeah, and typically I try and sort of, I try and perfect it because that's just how I think. So if like, how close am I? Well, here, that's about half and half. It's about the same width between the two edges of the shot. So yeah.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Sort of. We have what we like to use, the communion shot, which is whenever communion happens and they're doing a little musical break for everyone to focus on it, you just focus on the picture of Jesus and kind of tighten it in like that to where the frame, no speaker, and the top and the bottom of the frame in some way, the exact measurements aren't really important, but the top and the bottom of the frame there are in the top and the bottom of the shot.
Yeah, and it's pretty well centered like that.
Yeah.
So,
And then you can, whenever it's going to be on a thing for a while and you've got it set, you can try and lock it. And I would suggest maybe you test this out to where you can. But there's drift as well. So you've got to kind of be a little careful with the lock to be certain that when you lock it, it doesn't screw up your shot.
okay. Yeah, the tighter you're zoomed in, the more sensitivity there is for
To some extent, yeah.
wiggles and movement.
Yeah. So that, for example, isn't super. There we go. So sometimes you kind of have to sort of nudge it away and then nudge it back. And the critical bit is when you're live streaming is just always think about how what you're about to do is going to affect the view. Sometimes you'll have no choice and you'll have to do a quick abrupt adjustment, but generally speaking, abrupt adjustments bad.
Yeah, best avoided when possible.
Exactly. Yep. So that would be the communion shot, and then for when David or whoever is preaching, you kind of go back over here, zoom out, and then have the screen kind of on the right and the pulpit there on the left.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that, but I would have wasted his whole slideshow by not doing that.
Yeah, no, and that's how we get both. So you get the video, so you get the slideshow. The other thing too is as is going to happen most Sundays, David is preaching. David, as you may or may not recall, likes to kind of walk around a bit. So if he walks out of the shot, unless he stays there for, 30 seconds or more, I would not worry about him being out of the shot. Because otherwise you're going to be like, we're following David, up, down, left, right, sideways. And it becomes more problematic than it's worth.
Okay.
Now, if he walks over there and he looks like he's going to stand there for a few minutes, yeah, you'll have to guide over to him. But usually that will not happen. Usually what will happen is he might walk out of the shot, to the right side of the pulpit or something for a few seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, then he'll come back. And in those cases, just let him walk out of the shot. Because by the time you adjust enough to follow him there, he might be doing something else, and it's erratic and disruptive. And, yeah, so. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And then, since people are standing again for both the invitation and the closing hymn, the rules of standing apply, and you zoom back in on that. So, now obviously it's not focusing, but you make the full screen full. David does his announcements, kind of a tightish shot on that. That one sort of try and center on him as best as possible. Same thing applies about walking out of the shot. You don't want to be adjusting your shot so much to follow him that it becomes too jarring for the viewer. So
It's supposed to look like Blair Witch.
exactly, yeah. Yeah. Oh, he'd have to be zoomed in for that. Be like, all right, give us our announcements. Anybody have anything on that? So anyway, but that's kind of the other rubbish. You don't want to zoom in too tight on it. But yeah, don't worry too much about following David around is the general suggestion.
Okay.
So.
And you don't necessarily, there may be a situation that dictates it, but normally you don't go super wide, so you always have him. You zoom in what would be appropriate if he stayed put.
Exactly. You want to focus on, and that's a good general guideline as well, you want to focus on whatever action is happening at the moment. Too tight, maybe not, but you want to be sure and sort of direct everyone's focus towards a tight-in shot of whatever's happening. So if there's a special, obviously you focus on the person singing. Obviously there's a baptism, you focus on that. But if you need kind of like a default, nothing's really going on right now shot, then I would just pull back and let everybody see everyone else. Or if everyone's meeting and greeting or whatnot, that'd be the shot to use. Because you also don't want to be too tight in and have random people's faces come in and out. That's just annoying too. So. And some of this is individual discretion, of course. Well, all of it really is individual discretion. But the guiding sort of principle here is think of it in terms of what the person at home is seeing and make it as smooth as possible for them. Okay. Cool? Okay. All right. So then when we get to the end here, after dismissal, what we typically do for a closing shot is go to the cross for 1, 2, 3, 4,